Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this circle as we create spiritual community with one another. Welcome to this circle where we all have a place, whether we've ever been in this place before or we've been in this place many times or haven't been in this place in a very long time. Welcome. Here we are on our journey in this season of waiting, this season we call Advent. Waiting with simplicity, waiting with expectation, waiting for birth. And so we sing ourselves into community as we gather with each other this day. What a revolutionary thing it was when our species learned to make fire, learned the power of fire. Great mystic, scientist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin has said, someday, after mastering the winds and the waves and tides and gravity, we will harness the energies of love. And for a second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire. We gather with each other week by week, setting fire in our midst, that it might set that vision of passion, of love for ourselves, for each other, for our world, in which we might discover fire again in the power of great love. we all pray, whether we use words or sighs or the silent space within us where there are no words to arise. Everything in all creation prays. We come with each other to strengthen our intention, to live with hope, peace, joy, and love. And so together with one another, we offer these words, our prayer. We are grateful for this season, for the myths and metaphors that orient us toward living with hope, peace, joy, and love. We celebrate the stories and songs that invite us to find ourselves among the cast of characters. We gather with each other that we may be inspired to live purposefully, find the miracles in the ordinary, birth where we least expect it, and wonder in the midst of trouble and beauty. May it be so.
It's time to light our Advent candles, and I need some small helpers. Could anyone that is willing to come and help me light these candles come to the table? Great. Nice. Beautiful. Some of us are here. Some of us are coming. We'll wait until we're here. Great. Here she comes. Well, here we are around the table. Christmas is coming. You know. But, we have ways of counting down. Sometimes our Advent calendars. Sometimes we cross out the dates on the calendar. But you know what? When we come here on a Sunday, we have a different way of counting till Christmas, and it's with our blue candles. And so we have to remember now, this side of the table, let's the three of us help light our first candle right here. We have to tip it right in there, and maybe I'll just put this upside down. How are we doing? We're dripping all over the table. They're going to be mad at me. Okay, there we go. We did it. Perfect. There's one candle. We lit this candle on the very first, thank you very much. That was great help. We lit this candle on the very first Sunday in Advent, and that reminded us that we are going to wait for Christmas in just very simple ways. Very simple ways. We're not going to let lots of busyness and lots of other things get in the way of what's important, waiting for Christmas. So then, over here, Youch. We lit a second candle, and who hasn't helped yet? You haven't helped? Would you like to help? Could you grab that? Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. Let's tip. More? We did it. Good. On the second week of Advent, which was last Sunday, we remembered that we're going to wait for... I have too much air. It blew out the candle. Anyway, we're going to remember that we're waiting with real excitement and expectation. It's pretty exciting to wait. Also difficult, but pretty exciting. And now, we are on the third Sunday of Advent, and we're going to light our third candle. Can you help here? Good. You're a good helper. Perfect. We did it. Today, this candle, we're going to use to remind us that there's a great story that we tell at Christmas about a man and a woman who are going to have a baby. And they're journeying and they're traveling and they're waiting for this baby to come. And it's a story about waiting, but it's a story about new life. New babies, new life. We can't remember when we were born, but our parents, our grandparents, our friends, they can remember the day that we were all born. And they remember. And they tell us stories about our young days and how wonderful it was to wait, either for our birth or to meet us for the first time. How wonderful it is to wait. So we're waiting for Christmas. We've lit 3 candles. How many candles left? 1. There's 1 Sunday left before Christmas. So we'll come back next week and we'll light the 4th Advent candle. And then we'll be really close and we'll really be waiting, won't we? All right. Right now, I'd like to invite us to go to Kids Spirit, which we can do right through that door. And the youth are having a program downstairs, Youth Cafe. They're welcome to go downstairs for that as well.
This is a very brief poem from the Book of Hours, a classic of Rainer Maria Rilke, great German poet and mystic. I live my life in widening circles. I may not complete this last one, but I give myself to it. I circle around sacredness, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know. Am I a falcon? A storm? Or a great song? These are the words of a great mystic. Two of the four Gospels that we have in our Christian scriptures give us a story of the birth of this child. Matthew's story is the story of Magi coming from the east. And as they depart the scene, Matthew goes on to tell us this part of the birth story. Now, after the Magi had left, an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up and take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and stay there until I tell you. For Herod the king is about to search for the child in order to kill him." And Joseph got up and took the child and his mother by night and went to Egypt and remained there until after the death of Herod. This is a story of terror and tragedy designed to evoke a sense of Jesus of Nazareth as a new Moses. That story continues when Herod saw that he had been tricked by the Magi. He was infuriated. And he issued an edict and sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years of age and under, according to the time that he had learned from the Magi. If you're like me, and you think back over all the Christmas pageants you've witnessed in your lifetime, I bet that this awful scene of slaughter that comes right after the Magi leave the child has never been included. We're always ready to end the story as those wise strangers are heading home and the spotlight fades over the house where the parents and their young child remain in safety. No one wants to go from that soft light of gently holding new life into the terror and tyranny of senseless killing on the command of some unstable king. Fortunately, scholars tell us there is no historical evidence of that kind of genocide against male infants in the first century Bethlehem. Like the rest of the story, the storyteller is drawing on not on the prose of history, but on the poetry of human experience. And so the writer creates this detail to evoke a parallel with the primal story of their ancient ancestor Moses in his exodus from an earlier captivity. What first century listener wouldn't recognize that detail puts the baby Jesus in the same jeopardy as the baby Moses, who survived thanks to an ingenious mother and a devoted sister and a soft-hearted daughter of a tyrannical Pharaoh? Matthew wants to help his hearers see Jesus as the new Moses, the new leader and liberator. So he has helped us make those connections. In so many ways, this storyteller creates details to draw a parallel between Jesus of Nazareth and the Moses who had shaped so much of their identity. So Matthew organizes his gospel around 5 bodies of teaching, so we can't mistake the fact that he is offering Jesus of Nazareth to us as the teacher of the new Torah, the new law, a law that can be summed up in a single word: love. And the storyteller wants us to be sure not to miss the message that this one who will liberate his people from the tyranny of Rome is akin to the ancient one who freed them from the oppression of Egypt. So he connects Jesus with Egypt, naming his father Joseph after the great patriarch who had saved his people from starvation by rising to power in Egypt. And he evokes a Pharaoh like Herod who brings back that paranoid death sentence on young children and creates a scenario that would take Jesus into and out of Egypt. And not just Egypt as a place on a map, but Egypt as the metaphor that arises out of what that word literally means: a narrow place. We're always getting caught in narrow places. In the narrow places where power gets concentrated. In the narrow places in hearts and minds that close borders and raise suspicions. We're always getting caught in the narrow places of fear and insecurity, or the narrow places of our own hurt and vulnerability. Whatever tempts us to narrow our thinking and constrict our hearts. Whatever it is that keeps us from living in the wild, wide wilderness of openness. And ironically, the narrow place is the necessary place for birth. It's always a narrow passage. It is the necessary place for exodus, for being delivered from what is to what could be. And isn't it the narrow place that invariably takes us beyond the womb that will become a tomb if we don't yield to its exodus? That will take us beyond a security that threatens to enslave us. A place we have outgrown, where we no longer fit. A place that was intended to be a temporary place where we will become unsafe if we stay too long. A narrow place. A place for whatever reason we can no longer call home. Perhaps this nativity story we reenact every December comes each year to remind us that this is not so much a story about the birth of a particular human being as it is about the nature of becoming human. And if it's about the journey of becoming human, it isn't surprising then that birth and death belong in the same nativity. They belong in the same narrative. Because new life is invariably threatened by the old ways. That one can never tell the story of birth without telling the hard truth that we must leave through the narrow place to live our lives in ever-widening circles. To live as a spiritual being is to be awake to life's invitation to be born again and again. To be delivered from the wombs of security in which we've taken refuge, the wombs of easy answers to unanswerable questions. The womb of living inside the shelter of a particular ideology or a particular authority or even a particular tradition. To be born again and again is about awakening to a universe that is saturated with the spiritual, infused with the sacred, intimately divine and intensely holy. It's about living as a spiritually awake human being. It's about being born again every morning from the sleep of death. It's about discovering new consciousness every day and growing more deeply conscious as a spiritual being each day. To be born again, to leave the narrow place, is always to leave the womb of our present attachments, to let go of our closely guarded ideas, our treasured beliefs, and to give ourselves to the vulnerable journey of opening to the mystery in which we live and move and have our being. Perhaps we evoke the story and the imagery of Exodus in the ritual of baptism as a way of reminding ourselves that birth is not a moment, nor is it an event, but birth is an ever-recurring process. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but birthing is a way of living as a spiritually awake being, a way of being alive to the experience that each breath invites us to move through a narrow place to a wider consciousness, just as breath squeezes through the narrowest passages to be released into the atmosphere. As a people of story and a people of symbol, we reenact our human realities with our pageants and our rituals. In this Christmas season, we're not just celebrating the birth of the storied child of Mary, but we're celebrating the nature of what it is to be spiritual beings in a human experience, invited to be newly born to each moment, to each day, to each relationship, to each of life's experiences, and then to be ever like a newborn, meeting the world with wonder and awe and mystery, inviting discovery, requiring faith and trust. We're always tempted to bring down the curtain with the discovery of the child, as though birth were a once upon a time or a once in a lifetime venture. But this story that refuses a simple happy ending comes to awaken us to the call of life, to keep coming through the narrow places, to be born to new understandings, deeper compassion, a larger circle of awareness, to be Exodus people and creatures, to be freedom-seeking societies and spiritual communities, to live into the liberty of being born again and again into ever-widening circles. So this is our time to ponder our own rebirth in this season. What is it that is seeking to be born in us? What narrow place invites us to move through the narrows into the height and depth and breadth of a wilderness, of a new life? Friends, we go in the light of love. We go to be born again and again into possibility, into expecting from ourselves and from our world, the world that can be. And we go giving ourselves to the graciousness of what it is to keep leaving the narrow places. We go in peace and hope, singing our tidings of comfort and joy.